All these other campaigns we're having right now are irrelevant. Who cares what legislature you have? Who cares who the governor is? Because the court will just decide for us. No matter what the freedom is, it is up for grabs, and that is a slippery slope. And that's why I believe this is the most important question on the ballot in Iowa. I believe it's the most important race in the country. I believe you're going to see history made on November 2, and 3 justices will be removed. Sometimes we get so confused by our own intellect that we no longer understand what the Constitution really says. So either we made 161 years of really bad mistakes, or this court just is supreme. These 7 have, unlimited and all-knowing power. Courts should be fair and impartial, Mr. Albee said, and I believe Mr. McCormick said they should be independent. I couldn't agree more. And if this is about discrimination, civil rights, why stop there? Why stop granting it to same-sex couples? How about if I want to marry my son? How about if I want to marry 3 other women? How about if I want to marry a guy and a woman? If that's my interpretation of what I want to do, why stop there? And we're marrying people. And their best answer is this. I want you to get this. Their best answer is this. If the court made a mistake, don't throw the judges off. The people of Iowa should amend the Constitution 4 years down the road, after you're doing same-sex marriages without a law. 4 years down the road, amend the... So would you only appoint Supreme Court justices that agreed with you? I said, no, they don't have to agree with Bob Vander Plaats. They just have to agree with the Constitution. Well, my thing would be is that in their own opinion, they discriminated against people who want to be polygamous. They discriminated against people who want to be bisexual, 1 man, 1 woman. They discriminate in their own opinion if somebody wants to marry their own child. So why stop there? You're putting discrimination in your own opinion. Where I say it's a slippery slope is this, and my father-in-law would agree with me. My father-in-law owns way more land than I do. And I believe in the right to private property. But under the equal protection provision, why can't I have some of his land?
An activist court is a court that makes a decision you don't agree with. We had an activist, We had an activist former judge up here yesterday from Alabama. He was the Chief Justice in Alabama, a fellow named Roy Moore.
An activist court is one when they have a ruling you don't agree with. Let's play this out. There was a guy in Illinois one day who was going about his business, and a court determined that slaves are property. And he said, I can't live with that. And he ran for president. And Abraham Lincoln became president. And when he became president, he issued the executive order of his day called the Emancipation Proclamation, which led to the 13th Amendment, which led to the freeing of slaves. There, President Lincoln held a court in check.
Iowa Supreme Court, which was in the territorial court, held that a slave from Missouri in Iowa was not property. That was 30 years before the United States Supreme Court dealt with the same problem. And once again, this court in Iowa was way ahead of the curve in civil rights.
The money that is funding Mr. Vander Plaats' campaign is largely out-of-state money contributed by special interests.
How do you know that?
Trying to tell us folks, I see your financial disclosure
data
that's published in the media.
Because I believe all we have to do is report independent expenditure reports.
How much money are you getting from this marriage organization that's headquartered in Mississippi, as I understand it?
I think the National Organization of Marriage is actually headquartered out of Michigan. I believe American Family Association is actually headquartered out of Mississippi.
How much money are you getting from those groups?
I think if you take a look at our independent expenditure reports, because we do follow the letter of the law, you'll find out exactly what we're spending.
Tell us. Just tell us. How much are you getting from those groups?
You know, I'm the state spokesperson and chair of this deal, but as far as the money, well, what we have done, and I think what you...
Is it $50 million? Is it $100 million?
You know, it's way under $1 million who come from a lot of different places. However, I think what it is, Mark, on November 2, it'll be the people of Iowa voting on this issue. It won't be people from out of state.
But it'll be a television campaign attacking the integrity, the character, and the decision-making ability of 3 justices of the Iowa Supreme Court. It won't be Alabama judges whose jobs are at stake. It won't be Iowans who will be funding this campaign. You've spent, what, more than $100,000 to date?
Well, I think we spent more than that just on TV.
What do you expect to gain if you remove these 3 judges from office?
What we hope to do is, one is to send a message. The retention vote is there for the people. Why is it that you have such a problem with letting the people have their voice be heard on November 2?
I have absolutely no problem with our retention system.
No,
letting the people vote on retention. What I have a problem with
is the mob.
Special interests organizing a well-funded campaign which is misguided in its purpose, which threatens to undermine our system of selection and retention of judges. That's my problem.
It's not misguided.
And it is attacking personally 3 very competent and distinguished individuals who ought to be judged on the competency of their performance.
What is the relationship between Iowa for Freedom and American Family Association?
I think if you take a look at all of our disclosures, they'll say Iowa for Freedom, a project of American Family Association. There's no doubt they help fund us. I think if you take a look at our commercial that I believe goes up today, you'll see probably the National Organization of Marriage help fund that. We're focused on one issue. And one issue is April 3, 2009, where a court clearly legislated from the bench.
Bob, have you actually read the opinion?
I've read all 69 pages a few times.
Do you understand it?
You know what? I don't understand how they reach their conclusions, but I'll tell you what the other thing I've read. I've read the Constitution several times, and I clearly understand that.
Judges ought to be judged for purposes of retention on their performance in office, which ought to be measured by their competency, their diligence, their faithfulness to the law, the clarity of their decisions, and overall their professional abilities. And it ought not to be a decision which is made, as your group advocates, on the basis of the unpopularity of one decision.
You see, you tend to know more about my group than I do.
You have advocated in your gubernatorial campaign that you would interfere with the Varnum decision by entering an executive order that would attempt to bar its implementation in Iowa. You had no authority to do that. You were way outside your bounds.
Oh, no, wait a minute. First of all, we're not going to debate that issue, but let me try to defend myself here. If the judicial branch is going outside of its boundaries to do something they shouldn't do, I'll hold them check. Why would that be so unkind? That would have been a great debate, and we would have had it.
That is totally contrary to the provision in the Iowa Constitution, which says that each branch will exercise the powers appertaining to that branch, and none shall infringe the prerogatives of the other.
Is this what this has become? That this is just a referendum on the rights of gay and lesbian couples to be married?
It may just be another referendum on Mr. Vander Plaats.
You know, well, what's interesting though is that most people talk about perseverance being a virtue. You know, we talked about this a lot. Is this a marriage referendum? To me, this is about freedom. If marriage is no longer one man, one woman, why stop there? The Second Amendment, one could argue. You know, I carry a gun, not right now, but, you know, I carry a gun, but somebody else doesn't. The equal protection provision. Take the Second Amendment away. I understand about the slavery issue and the integration issues and those things. So if we're going to open it up, why stop at same-sex marriage on sexual orientation?
You stop
because some people would say their sexual orientation is that they're bisexual, that they have more than one, that they have a love for their son or for their daughter. Why stop at one? Why not open it up for everyone? Well, the sky is falling. You know, for me at least, as an individual and a private citizen, and maybe as a state chair for Iowa for Freedom.
What it's trying to accomplish is removing these 3 judges, as Mr. Vander Plaats mentions, to send a message to these judges, and apparently judges everywhere. And the message is one of an effort at intimidation and vindictiveness. You make decisions we don't agree with, we're going to go after you. And we're going to politicize a retention system because we're going to raise a lot of money, and we are going to hire full-time staff people, and we're going to run television ads and other media and turn it into the sort of thing that the kind of media circus that exists in those states that have partisan political elections. The role of money gives the impression that justice is for sale to the highest bidder. I have just never seen, in 50 years as a lawyer in this state, any indication of an inappropriate influence in a decision made by one of our judges. And I never asked myself whether that judge, when the judge was a lawyer, made a political contribution or not. I think we are just so lucky that we have a system that has worked so well. And I would hate to see it be plunged into the kind of partisan political thicket that an organized and well-funded campaign of this nature threatens it with.
Accountability and intimidation. I used to be a high school principal. Matter of fact, our kids took hundreds of tests every year. And a lot of times the kids never cheated on the test. But once in a while, they cheated. And we held them accountable. And we disciplined them in such a manner that there would be a corrective action that they won't want to do that again. The same way's here. If you're going to continue just to pat a court on the back as they take your freedom and your liberty away, everything's up for grabs. Everything's up for grabs. For me, I'm going to stand up for liberty, and I'm going to vote no on those 3 justices November 2.